gentlemen, put your hands together, keep it going, show the love for Kerry Leon Jackson.
1980. I'm a 16-year-old kid getting ready to graduate from high school, in a position to make those choices that many of us have all made. Am I going to a predominantly white school, or am I going to a historical black college or university? Most of my friends are applying to and getting accepted to historical black colleges and universities. By 16, I've spent my entire life getting the black experience. I wanted to know how the other half lived. I applied for and got accepted to a paralegal / pre-law program that if you look for it now, you'll find out that Loyola University has moved it onto one of its Chicago campuses. But back in 1980, the program was in a city called Wilmette, Illinois. I lived in Maywood, Illinois, and had graduated from Proviso East High School in 1980. Now, I had a car, but the car was not very, very reliable, so the majority of time, I gotta tell you, at least 75 to 80% of the time that I spent going to school, I spent on the bus. It was a 2-hour trip, 2 buses, 2 trains. We'd leave Maywood. Maywood is a blue-collar, all-black suburb of Chicago. The train would go in through the west side of the city of Chicago, which is where I was born and raised. It's a black part of town. Downtown to the Loop. Many of you have heard of the Loop. There's at least 300 skyscrapers in downtown. I'd see all sorts of people on my trip every morning. There are a lot of different Caucasians in suits going to work in those office towers. A lot of African Americans dressed as blue-collar people going to go work for those Caucasians in those buildings downtown. The train would then take you through the north side of the city of Chicago, which looks absolutely nothing like the west side. The north side has everything you want. It's the affluent part of town. It's where all of the yuppies live. It's where all of the retail is. It's where everything that's happening in Chicago is. It's on the north side. The train then takes you out to Skokie, Illinois. Skokie is, at that point in time, a predominantly Jewish, old money community. By the time the train gets to Skokie, the crowd on the train has thinned out. There are some blacks on the train. Me and several other blacks are still left on the train by the time it gets to the end of the line in Wilmette, Illinois. The campus that I was attending at that point in time was in Wilmette. However, classes would start at 8:30 in the morning. The end of the line, that by the time the train got there, was 8 o'clock. The buses weren't running yet at 8 o'clock in the morning. So if I needed to get to school on time, I had to walk. It was only a half an hour walk, and I was 16. I was used to walking. Now, when there were other blacks that got off the train, the other blacks that would get off the train were all dressed as maids and servants. Just so that you'll have a frame of reference, Wilmette is a large home, mostly mansion community on the north shore of Chicago. Think Grosse Pointe, but with larger homes, and every home has a maid or a butler. One day, early on in my college career, I start to walk from the bus stop towards the college campus. As I'm walking up one of the streets, I see a Wilmette police car. In my mind, I'm simply thinking, oh, he's sitting out here, he's clocking speeders. As I walk past the car, I hear the car start up. Didn't think anything of it. The police officer pulls off, drives away, reappears 2 blocks back up the street. And I'm thinking, he's a cop out here. He knows where the speeders are. He's obviously going to a much better spot to clock speeders. As I approach, he then rolls down the window, pulls left wheel to curb, calls me over to the car, asks me for my ID, asks me where I'm going. I gave him my driver's license, I gave him the school ID, and I said, I'm going to school. How can I help you? He was very, very honest, and he said, listen, this time of morning, the only blacks that are out here are domestics, and you don't look like a domestic. And I informed him that I was not a domestic. I'm not on my way to go clean some Mr. Charlie's house. I'm on my way to school to get my education. He ran my name, made sure that I didn't have any outstanding warrants or anything. He let me go. followed me all of the way until I walked through the gates of the school. That day. The next time I come, I start my walk, there's another cop car. Another car that's following me pulls off, drives 2 blocks down. As I walk past him, he drives 2 more blocks down. I go over and knock on the window. Look, if you gonna follow me the entire way, just give me a ride to school. He then told me, we are not allowed to give you a ride to school. We are here just to make sure that everything remains peaceful. So apparently there had been a meeting where they talked about me. 16-year-old black kid going to school, and they have discussed this, and they've decided that I need police protection walking through one of the most affluent communities in the world on my way to school. Now, every day this continues. I get to school, they go away. When I leave school on the way back, I've got police protection again. I feel better than the President of the United States because nothing's going to happen to me because I've got protection. Even though my car was unreliable, there were occasions when I actually drove my car out to Wilmette. And if I drove through the communities, you know what happened. I get pulled over. Police ask me for my ID. Different officers. So I'm getting to know the entire Wilmette police force. Now, the program that I was in, all of my instructors were either lawyers or judges. There was one state senator or other captains of industry. They're out there teaching all of us to be paralegals. On many of those occasions, as I get pulled over, one of my professors would either drive by and he'd come back and he'd get out of the car and go to the police car and basically vouch for me. They're looking out for me. They're saying, Kerry is a good guy, he's black, but he's coming to our school, so leave him alone. I could then regularly hear the officers say, look, we've just got to check things out and make sure everything's okay, and he'll be on his way. After each of those interventions, when I'd get to school, each one of those professors would then come over and put his arm around me and apologize that I had to go through what I was going through simply in order to get to school. In fact, each and every one of those professors wrote me glowing letters of recommendation when I graduated in 1983. Many of them are still my friends to this day. The one thing that I noticed that every one of them put in their letter is his drive and his determination, which was code for he decided that he was going to keep coming to school and get his education no matter how much you harassed him. 1995. By now I'm a lawyer. I live in Detroit, practicing law. I've got a daughter. Her name is Paige. I enrolled Paige in a daycare out in Grosse Pointe because I live downtown. One morning I pull up to the school. I'm wearing a suit. I'm driving a Mercedes-Benz in Grosse Pointe. Pull up behind another car. I notice the parents that are getting out, they're taking their child also into the same daycare. I get Paige out. As we start to walk towards the door, the little boy that's there, he turns around and he opens the door, and this little boy's name is Joe. Joe is a little bitty, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, little young man. So we get near the door. I see Joe jumping up and down saying, Paige, Paige, Paige. His parents are walking back towards him to see what's going on. There are 2 daycare workers who I know well. They're still friends to this day. One's name is Pat and one name is Deshauna. You can hear them say, oh, Joe is in love with Paige. He's crazy about her. Joe has decided that Paige is going to be his girlfriend. I cannot describe for you the look on the faces of Joe's parents when they heard that. Joe's father's neck snapped around as if in The Exorcist, and he said, what did you say? That voice put the fear both into Pat and Deshauna, and I could tell that they had absolutely no idea what that phrase did to that white man. When we got to school and when we got to daycare the next day, they informed me that Joe's parents had unenrolled him from their daycare and was taking him to someplace else to be educated. 2014, just a few years ago, got a son by the name of KJ. His actual name is Kerry Leon Jackson II, but he goes by KJ. KJ is in 4th grade at school. KJ has a crush on a little blonde, she wasn't even blonde hair, it was dirty blonde hair. young girl by the name of, we're just for this day, we're gonna call her Becky. He has this little crush on a little Becky. Becky has a crush on him. Now here's the thing, I've met Becky's mom. We have been chaperone parents on at least 2 field trips. We go to PTA meetings and everything. I've known this woman, she knows me. There is, towards the end of the school year, there's a talent show. My son and his friends are in the talent show. They do a little version of Gangnam Style mixed with the hustle. Turns out they win. At the end of the night, I see Becky's parents, her mother, coming to pick her up. Becky told her mama, hold on, I've got to go say bye to KJ. I thought nothing of it. It's a Friday night. She leaves, take KJ home. He's got his award. He's all happy. He's won, done good. Him and his friends, they celebrate. We live our life through the weekend. Monday, we go to school, drop him off at the curb, go in, have a good day, see you later. The end of the day arrives. I pull up to the curb, and my son walks out, and he opens the door, and his face is just broken up. I can tell that my son has been crying. Okay, now when I find out that my son has been crying, I want to know immediately what happened, who did it, and I'm on my way to do something to them. He gets in the car. He's real hesitant to tell me. He's like shaking and crying, and he then says, Becky came to school on Monday and told him she was no longer allowed to be his girlfriend. Becky's father and brother had told her, you are better than that. You can never have a black boyfriend. He's never going to be good to you. He's never going to be good enough for any of us. You are never allowed to play with him ever again. Her parents told her that. Becky's family lives in the next subdivision over from where I live. I know their house. My plan at that moment was to go to their house and explain my point of view to each and every member of their family. As I drove that way, I remembered that that was going to wind up resulting in me needing bail money, and I was a black man in Farmington Hills, and I decided probably I ought to just go home and explain to my son the root causes of evil and racism in our country. The most important thing that I learned in undergrad, the lesson that I've learned with my children and that I've had to teach them, is that there's this narrative that gets passed down from generation to generation to generation. White America tells their kids, you're better than the blacks. They're not on your level. They're never going to be on your level. You're always going to be better than them. No matter how much money they make, no matter what happens, you are better than they are. We're not innocent, because we also tell our kids something else. My parents told me, the thing that y'all want to call the talk nowadays, my parents taught me how to behave around white folks. I knew that when I was walking through Wilmette, I had to be as non-threatening, out in the open, and as compliant as possible, because I was being watched every single day for 3 years. Now, America likes to tell people that this is this great place. We are the land of the free, the home of the brave. Everybody is equal here. Our arms are outstretched. Come on to our country and you can do well here. That's what we tell people. But we have not yet gotten to that point. Let me tell y'all something tonight. Finally, in 2019, I finally see some hope. Congress has decided that they're going to hold these hearings, and they told the hearings, and what you hear on the media is that the hearings are all about reparations. Reparations, the current point of the hearings has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not you and you are going to wind up getting a check. The point of the hearings is that we've got to make a decision whether we're going to follow the South Africa model. Are we going to do what South Africa did 25 years ago, which is finally have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, let everybody come forward and vent, everybody can say how they feel, and can we finally get to the point of understanding each other so that there will be some sort of policy, some legislation that can be carried out by parents, churches, the media, schools? Can we teach each other the American way? Can we finally get to that point of understanding each other? We finally, for the first time in the history of our country, where we have always had the scourge of racism, we finally have decided we are going to study taking that next step. So I've got some hope that we're going to take that next step, that eventually we're going to get to the point of everyone learning that the myths that we've passed down are harmful to the white community and the black community, that we're going to get to a point where we all understand each other, and then we'll all be able to live together and enjoy this great planet that we live on. My name is Kerry Leon Jackson. I go by the Urban Conservative. You can find me at 9:10 a.m. Superstation Monday through Friday at 6 in the morning. Thank you for your time.
Kerry Leon Jackson.